Today, I'm excited to share with all of you a new video series idea where I'll be featuring the best chess game that a certain player ever played. Now, obviously, the selection criteria for that is kind of difficult, so this will be more of a conversation starter. Let me know your thoughts ultimately in the comments below, and if you have a better suggestion, feel free to drop it there as well. The person we're kicking the series off with is none other than Anish Giri. Obviously, a fantastic chess player. He was ranked number 3 in the world in January 2016, behind Magnus Carlsen and Vladimir Kramnik. But he's also a husband, he's also a father, a family man, a social media savant, so I figured we would start with him. And his game is with the black pieces in the Magnus Carlsen chess tour. He was playing against the one, the only, Magnus Carlsen. And I chose this game for a few reasons. The chess was spectacular, but at the time of this matchup, Anish had went 0-4 in his first 4 rounds, and Magnus had went 4-0. So undefeated Magnus, no wins Anish, and watch what happens in the game, and watch how Anish responds to the pressure that he's under and rises to the occasion. So, d4 from Magnus, knight f6, c4 e6, knight f3 d5, a standard queen's gambit declined, and knight c3. Now here, black can play a variety of different things. Black can go bishop to e7, black can go bishop to b4, there is the dc4 lines, the c5 lines in this game, and very trendy right now at the top level is this thing with bishop b4, known as the Rogozin defense. Now white can again do a million different things here. Bishop g5 is a line. Queen a4 check doesn't win the bishop, by the way. Otherwise, this wouldn't be a very, impressive game, because knight c6. But this is a line. I actually like this line quite a lot with white. In this game, Magnus took on d5, take, and the bishop came out to f4. Now, here's already where I like this, right? It's hard to choose the best game a person has ever played, but it needs to be exciting, right? So Anish doesn't play your standard, what you would think is this. He goes straight for it. Knight to e4, immediately adding pressure to this knight, threatening to win some material, breaking kind of the beginner's principles of the game that you're supposed to not move a piece 2 times and get more pieces out. Rook c1, knight to c6, again, pressuring the center. I did talk about this move with queen a4, but here it also makes sense. The bishop can come out, and at the same time, if the knight is to ever move, the rook blocks the knight blocks the rook's vision down to c7. So knight d2, this is a theoretical move, blocking this bishop and just trying to trade off the knight on e4. Knight back to d2. If you take it, then white's very happy. You get rid of your active knight, and then white moves on with life. And this is where Anish Giri throws, it's a theoretical move, but it's a kind of a first punch, and that move is g5. Okay, very spicy. Bishop to e3. Already, the position doesn't make any sense. If you're looking at this as a beginner, it just doesn't make any sense. Why are they doing this? Well, knight c3, bc3, the bishop is now under attack, and the bishop moves to a3. So the rook obviously has to move, otherwise the rook will be lost. Rook to b1. So, why can you play like this? You can play like this because despite seemingly overextending, for example, the next move is f5. Despite seemingly overextending and pushing all these pawns forward, your king is actually completely safe. And the main reason is white's pieces are in front of his own pawns. Think about that conceptually. If the pawns don't move forward, you don't gain any space. And because white has just this bishop out here and a knight that's sort of back, and okay, there's an active rook, but it can't do anything. There's no real danger to Anish overextending like this. In fact, he is just very confidently threatening to win Magnus's bishop, so Magnus plays the move g3. Now, in this event, Magnus actually faced castles here from Firouzja, and then threatening the move f4. He was victorious in that game, and actually, about 2 months ago, this game took place in April 2020, as you can tell. 2 months ago, he played this against Grishuk, and Grishuk also castled. In this game, Anish uncorked bishop to d6, which at the time was perhaps not a novelty, but a deviation. And the threat is again to go f4. And of course, Magnus Carlsen completely disregards it and plays the move rook to g1, a move that literally looks like a mouse slip. The move pawn to f4 traps the bishop. It turns out that rook g1 is an engine move. It's preparation. And, well, it's time for Anish Giri to think. So Anish, up to this point, hasn't won a match. you know, battling all these top guys, and now Magnus plays a move which is outside of his preparation. So Anish spends half his time here. This is a 15-minute game. Anish spends about 7 of his 15 minutes. And he comes up with an interesting idea. And the idea is castles. Had he played f4, this is what would have happened. This is what would have happened. Take, take, take. Looks like the guy just hung a piece. But no, because now e3 comes, hits the bishop, and the door's open. So if you take on h2 attacking the rook, I'm going to check you, and then I'm going to win your bishop. And your king is extremely weak now. Before it was safe because I didn't have any openings in the position. Now it's very weak. And then here the best thing that you can do is queen e7 and something like this where black has a pawn up. It's like piece for 2 pawns, but white has a massive center. Open rook staring down both sides of the board. Very difficult position. So Anish decides to do what he considers to be much more pragmatic, which is castles. Now Magnus throws a punch, h4, and if you take on h4, well, this is bad news, because there is an opening of the h-file, the pieces can begin to transfer to this side of the board, king h8, the bishop comes, the pawn comes, the queen comes, etc, etc. I mean, maybe even bishop comes like this, and Anish here, under the pressure of the clock and the position, finds a beautiful idea after h4, finds a very nice idea. He plays f4 anyway, and after takes, 2 pawns hit this guy, pinned to the king. He plays g4, just gluing it shut. Protected. And now the queen has vision here, and he will also play h5. And look at Magnus's bishop over here. Just a tall pawn, a pawn with a little pointy hat. Bishop literally has no moves. Completely entombed by its own pieces, right? So the next thing Anish is going to do is try to improve his position to the maximum capacity. Again, by closing this, maybe a rook comes, and this knight is going to reroute to f5, from where it can take this bishop, and then obviously with the rook coming down the file, it's bad news, also h4, you know, etc, etc. So here Magnus plays rook b5. Like I said, it's a crazy, crazy game, threatening the pawn here. Okay, well, this is more or less straightforward. He goes here, and here again, Magnus plays a move, which, I mean, it looks simply brilliant. I mean, for these guys, it might be, you know, it might be another, you know, another day in the office, but this, no, I mean, I don't even think a master level player would play this move, f5. Like, your position looks terribly lagging in development, but you have a moment here you can play the move f5. Let me tell you about this move. So if rook takes, for example, now your bishop no longer protects your pawn. So rook g4 and life is good. Okay, if knight takes, same story, rook takes g4, and at the same time there's also bishop to g5, and also in the future maybe d5 is hanging, yeah? And now, okay, well, last but not least, what about this, yeah? Here's the problem, bishop to h6. You solve the problem of this guy, but now the rook is hanging. If you play rook f6, well, then I drop back and I put some pressure. Let's say you do nothing. Let's say you play rook f7. Well, now I play e4. I use the fact that you've brought this bishop out against you, okay? Let's say you take the pawn and say, so what? Well, then bishop c4 is coming. So I've sacrificed the pawn to activate all of my pieces. Actually, in this case, I've sacrificed 2 pawns to activate both my bishops and surround your king, and you're in grave danger and simply lost. e4, very nice tempo winning move. Not this e3, c4, if he takes, then I take. No, we go straight, we forcing move. Make the opponent react. The move e4 does exactly that. Okay, this is not where the game ends, because Anish stays calm. He doesn't take the pawn. He can take it 3 different ways. He realizes it's all garbage, and he keeps his pawn protected. Okay, now we get bishop g5 as planned, and Anish just glues. Okay, a nice move, attacking the rook, protects the center, rook comes back. And this is where, this is where Anish goes just genius mode, absolute genius mode. Rather than just sidestepping this annoying pin and then moving on with his life, he plays rook takes f5. But didn't we say that if something ends up on f5, you get hit with e4? And obviously taking this is just too dangerous because knight e4, bishop c4, all of white's pieces get activated. Yeah, Anish knows that. He knows. That's why he's ready to sacrifice his rook. Takes. Okay, well, so, why'd he do that? This is why. Because the relative value of this bishop is not 3 points. This is White's most powerful, most active piece. By getting rid of it, you have now negated your opponent's activity, right? There's just 5 pieces there, but they're all stuck behind. They will need at least a few turns to come forward. How will Anish come forward? He's gonna play knight g6. Now, this pawn is hanging. Then this bishop will come slowly. The rook will come slowly. Whose king is actually weaker? It's definitely not this king. For example, if White plays ed5, just trying to trade everything, you just take. Who's gonna attack you? Okay, let's say bishop comes, right? I want to take with check. Oh, so scary. Knight f4. I'm counter-attacking you. I'm defending. Your king is the one that's open. Be very careful here. And of course, knight to d3. So it's really a complicated position. So Magnus decides e5, attacking this bishop. And Anish has time here to just come back. Despite sacrificing a rook for a bishop, he has enough time to just retreat and say, what are you gonna do about it? You know, like, what are you gonna do to me? You have a free move, do something. Magnus can't do anything. You know, if Magnus tries to play something like f3, man, just trying to, like, you know, maybe bring this rook, queen g5 is a serious problem. Queen h4 is no joke. Again, it's the piece activity. Not all pieces' values stay the same throughout a game of chess. That's a complicated concept to understand for a beginning player. But in this case, it's Anish who's playing with more active pieces, okay? So Magnus plays bishop d3. Of course, we get knight f4 and knight to f1. Magnus very happily inviting this trade. Of course, Anish doesn't take place, queen g5. Now, in this position, Magnus plays the move f3. Very logical, right? Looks logical. Looks logical. If you take it, you know, the rook can come and also join the attack. Well, try to find how Anish Giri won this game. Yeah. Try to find how Anish Giri won this game in this position. Knight takes d3, because it's not a trade anymore. Because when queen d3, queen c1. Ooh. Magnus blunders. It happens. And this is the part where you guys go, oh, well, he blundered in one move. You know, it's not the best game. No, I do think it's the best game. Because it shows an adaptability, right? Overcoming a time deficit, overcoming a novelty in the opening, and overcoming a disastrous event up to this point. He overcame a lot to get to this position, and I will show you how he won it. Then I will show you what maybe could have happened if Magnus didn't make this blunder, and then we'll look at Anish's celebration. So king f2, queen takes b2 check, knight to d2. Okay, but a lot of you have this question, Levy. Look, you get me good positions in the opening sometimes. How do I win this game? When you are up material, the second, you know, in chess, there's 2 most important things. Material and king safety. We got to make sure our king is guarded. We got to protect against this. But before we do that, we need to look at the most forcing moves we have. Checks, captures, attacks. We can go here, but that's idiotic because they take and we can take. But again, you're not. But what about an attacking move here? Well, that doesn't work because... Oh, but it does, because the queen's guarding the knight. And that's why Anish did it. Take. Now this is a very different story. King to g3, the king has to get in front of the rook, so we have an opportunity to take a pawn. Because if queen comes to g6 with check, well, in this position, very simple and straightforward, just block. Okay, Levy, but what about check? Okay, any more checks? Yeah, but Levy, then they're gonna go queen g6 and take my pawn, it's gonna be check again. Yeah, but whoa. They're not the only ones that get to move. Forcing moves in converting a winning position are super important because, yeah, I can say, okay, Anish won this game, no problem. Bang, 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 easy. But not a lot of us feel very confident with this queen attacking our king and finding the right move. Make sure there are no more checks, right? In the game, king h4 happened, trying to get this rook kind of activated again. And Anish played queen takes d4, again correctly realizing that his king is safe as long as this move happens. So in the game, Magnus played rook g3. For example, had he played fg4, you cannot take this. Don't just lazily take back because this comes and you lose. And we don't want that. So when this happens, please notice that there is a hanging rook on the corner of the board, yeah? Again, a lot of people, they auto recapture. They just bang, bang. Okay, I'll figure it out later. No, it's not checkers. We don't need to take on g4. Take the rook. Or bishop to e7, go for the check. You don't need to take just because they took you. Rook g3, okay, bishop e7. Obviously looks interesting, but maybe then king takes pawn and rook is coming. So Anish finishes it off in very nice style. Bishop g7, safeguard the king, and bring the only piece that hasn't taken part in the game. Rook here. If Magnus had given him a check, he would have played king to h8, and it's over. These pawns are stage shot. If king takes h5, you could probably win in a variety of ways, like this. Hits the rook. If rook takes g4, probably there is a win here. Trying to look. Queen h2, rook h4. Rook f5. Easy peasy. Rook f5. Yeah. If king, mate, and well, I mean, I trust that you guys will win a game up a queen and a bishop for a rook, but you don't even have to do that. You have mate here as well. A very nice game. A very, very nice game from Anish Giri. Fighting against the world champion with a Rosen, playing this crazy kingside attack in the beginning of the game. You know, launching the pawns forward. It just shows, you know, high level of class. Overcoming a bad start to a tournament to then defeat Magnus. And then celebrating. I did promise I would show you the video, right? Well, here it is. The video heard around the world. Anish does this, and then hops around excitedly. It's so great. Anyway, that brings me to the conclusion of the first video in the Best Games Ever Played by Certain Players series. If you have some recommendations by certain, you want a player and a game, share it in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on this game in particular, how I did, how you enjoyed, and yeah, what's your favorite thing to eat for breakfast? I'll see you in the next video.